Imagine if someone from the past suddenly came to the 21st century and saw our modern technology. How surprised they would be. Something like this happens to Lucius, who was a Roman architect. He hasn't been able to create anything new for a long time, and because of this, he's struggling with money. Lucius felt that everyone found his designs boring and outdated. One day, his friend took him to a public bathhouse, a place where people usually felt calm and relaxed. However, Lucius thought, what peace can I find here among these men? Feeling frustrated, he decided to dive into the water. As he swam, he noticed a small whirlpool forming nearby. Curious, he moved toward it, but suddenly, the strong current pulled him in. Within moments, he was dragged underwater, struggling to breathe. Desperately, he tried to reach the surface, and after much effort, he finally succeeded. But as soon as he emerged, he was shocked. He wasn't in the same place anymore. Instead of returning to his own time, Lucius found himself in a modern Japanese bathhouse of the 21st century. He was stunned by what he saw, elderly men staring at him. Lucius had never seen such flat-faced people before, and it left him in shock. As he looked around, he realized this world was far more advanced than his own. The taps, shower heads, and massage devices left him amazed. He couldn't believe his eyes. While exploring, he accidentally wandered into the women's changing room. One of the women screamed in fright and threw a metal box at his head. There was also a woman there named Mommy, who looked at Lucius' face, which reminded her of a cartoon character. After he got up, someone gave him a bottle of flavored milk to calm him down. Lucius, still confused, couldn't understand what is happening to him. Lucius's mind went blank and he fainted. When he woke up, he was back in his own city. The people there told him he had nearly drowned, but was pulled out of the water just minutes ago. At first, Lucius thought his encounter with the modern Japanese bathhouse was just a dream. But then he noticed the empty milk bottle still lying beside him. 2 months later, inspired by what he had seen, Lucius transformed a bathhouse in his city into something resembling the 21st century. It had massage booths and modern features, and people loved it. His work received immense praise, and he became rich overnight. Soon, people in his city started enjoying massages and cold, sweet milk just like in the future. One day, while Lucius was relaxing in a tub, an old man approached him and said he wanted a personal bathroom built. As Lucius started thinking about how to design it, a powerful water current pulled him in again, transporting him back to the 21st century. This time, an elderly man asked Lucius to bathe him. Confused but polite, Lucius agreed. He used modern tools like fountains and shower heads, discovering many new things about modern plumbing. Coincidentally, the house belonged to a young woman who saw Lucius and realized he wasn't from her time. She ran to grab her sketchbook to capture him, but by the time she returned, Lucius had vanished. Meanwhile, back in Rome, Lucius began sketching ideas inspired by his visit to the old man's home in the future. His creativity was flowing like never before. Lucius made a lot of money from his new work and thought he could now give his wife a good life. However, she wasn't happy. She wanted to become a mother, but Lucius was always busy with his work. This led to a big argument between them, and in anger, she left, insulting him as she walked out. A few days later, Lucius received an invitation from the king of Rome. The king had heard a lot about his work and praised him. He asked Lucius to design a personal bathroom for him. However, the king set a condition. The bathroom had to be as unique, unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. Lucius accepted the challenge and went out to look for new ideas. However, as he searched, he found that nothing seemed unique. Everything he thought of felt like a cheap copy of 21st century designs. Lucius began to feel embarrassed. Suddenly, Lucius's foot slipped into a drain, and once again, he was transported into the 21st century. This time, he found himself in a busy department store where Mommy had recently started working. One day, a mistake was made, and the water was left running. Out of nowhere, Lucius emerged. After a moment, he noticed bubbles forming around him. The store manager called the police. Lucius and Mommy couldn't understand each other's language, but when Lucius offered a silver coin and asked her to show him the store, the Mommy understood the value of money. He was amazed by the sparkling, unique toilets he had never seen before. Lucius thought that the secret to the success of those flat-faced people might be written on some kind of printed design toilet paper. But what amazed him most was a spray that made his body tingle with excitement. He realized it was a working, high-tech product. Using all these ideas, Lucius returned to Rome and created the most luxurious bathroom for the king. He designed a toilet that had water flowing 24/7, with bubbles rising after pressing a button. As a decoration, he added fish bowls and included scented candles to bring peace of mind. The king was so impressed that he rewarded Lucius with a generous prize. Lucius returned home, excited to share his prize with his wife, but find his wife with his friend. Meanwhile, in the 21st century, Mommy began reading about the history of Rome. She wanted to know if Lucius really was from the past. While researching, she discovered that the coin Lucius had given her was 2,000 years old. Back in Rome, Lucius was devastated. His wife had run away with his friend, leaving him heartbroken. One day, he received an invitation from the royal palace. A few months earlier, the king's son had passed away, and the king believed that his son had been reborn as a crocodile. The king wanted Lucius to design a special place where this crocodile lived peacefully. Lucius faced a major challenge. If the crocodile died, the king would certainly punish him. To avoid this, Lucius pretended to check the water, and once again, he was transported back to the 21st century. This time, he found himself trapped in a cage with a crocodile at a zoo. While there, he met a mommy who was on a date with a man she didn't like. When she saw Lucius, she rushed over, freed him from the cage, and helped him out. Mommy told him a lot of information about crocodiles and their environment. To test if Lucius was truly from Rome, she played arrow with him to see if he could hit the target. Lucius easily hit all the marks. Soon after, he found himself sitting in a hot water pool. The current pulled him back to Rome, where he had another chance to impress the king. Lucius successfully created a place to keep the king's crocodile son, and the king now considered him a part of his family. Things were going well in the city, but one day, news arrived that some rebels were planning to attack the army. These rebels were unhappy with the king and wanted to remove him from power at any cost. A long battle between the king's army and the rebels lasted for a year. As time passed, the king grew old and decided to pass entire kingdom to his nephew. His nephew becoming king, he wanted to build a grand place for bathing to win the people's hearts. For this, he ordered Lucius to help, but Lucius wasn't particularly fond of him. He was arrogant and greedy, exploiting the poor. Lucius knew that once he became king, the Roman Empire would be doomed. Finally, Lucius refused to work for him. He threatened to hang him, but Lucius remained firm in his decision. He then went to another architect, but due to his own fame, all the other work was not going well. This leads to a fight between them. In the chaos, the other man pushed Lucius into a well. When Lucius opened his eyes, he found himself once again among Japanese people. He had been injured, and they were taking care of his wounds, bringing him to a hot water pool to heal. There, Lucius learned that soaking in hot water helped wounds heal faster and reduced pain. To ease his pain even more, they gave him some local liquor. After a while, Mommy arrived there. She had been learning Lucius's language for some time, but before she could say anything, Lucius, drunk, fell on top of her. Both of them fell into the pond. When they opened their eyes, they were back in Rome. Mommy was very surprised by this. She learned that Lucius was about to be hanged for disobeying the king's orders. Mommy tried hard to convince Lucius, but he refused to listen. He packed his things and left. Meanwhile, in the 21st century, a few elderly people were searching for Mommy, and they too ended up falling into the pond. Like Lucius, they were swept away by a whirlwind and found themselves in Rome. Meanwhile, Lucius, while walking, came across a mountain and a hot water pool. Lucius found the pond again and remembered how the people had healed him using hot water. He realized that hot water could heal the soldiers' wounds too. After consulting with Mommy, he went to the king to share his idea. Lucius mentioned that the idea had come from Antonius, who was also a contender for the throne and more capable than King Nephew. Lucius wanted to prove his worth in the king's eyes. With the king's approval, Lucius, Mommy, and the elders from the 21st century got to work. In just a few hours, they had constructed a small hut. Gradually, many houses were built around the pond, where wounded soldiers could rest and heal. The elderly used modern medicine from the 21st century to quickly treat them. A few months later, the king's army won the battle against the rebels. The celebration was filled with dance and music. Meanwhile, Lucius and Mommy shared tender moments of love and affection. After spending time together, Lucius and Mommy had developed feelings for each other. Lucius felt happier than ever before and had never experienced such joy in his life. But then, suddenly, all the people began to disappear, and even Mommy slowly started to fade away. Before she left, she told Lucius that they would meet again someday. After this, the king handed over the throne to Antonius and honored Lucius for his bravery. Without him, the army would never have one. Meanwhile, in the 21st century, Mommy had started a new life. One day, while walking on the street, she saw Lucius coming out of the pond. They reunited once again. Lucius fulfilled his promise to meet Mommy again. If you had the chance to time travel, would you like to visit the past or the future? Let me know in the comments.